My name is Mary Seeley.
My name is Ron Seeley.
We are owners of the Seeley collection of presidential Christmas memorabilia.
I first started collecting back in the 1970s, late 1970s. I was in Washington, D.C. I saw a Americana shop there, and I walked in, not knowing what to expect. I hadn't been in anything like that before, and I asked him if he had anything related to Christmas and the White House and the president. And he went back in his back room, I think, into a safe and brought out a velour folder, and it had a portrait of George Washington that had been done by Gilbert Stuart, and a little brass plaque that indicated that the President Nixon and his wife were giving this as a Christmas present to their staff. And that kind of intrigued me, and that was the start of my collecting.
My involvement in the collection came when I walked into our great room in 1985, and the television was on. Ronald Reagan was on television, a program called Christmas in Washington. And he was reading from Luke chapter 2. And I thought, wow, I wonder what other presidents say about the Christ of Christmas. And so Ron had been collecting for a long time before I really paid much attention to what he was gathering. But when I'm a historian, and that intrigued me about what do the presidents say at Christmas? And so that's when I got involved.
We have many letters that the presidents wrote at Christmas. Our first artifact is a James Madison letter to a gentleman thanking him for a book that was a Christmas gift. Chester Arthur wrote to R.G. Dunn of Dunn and Bradstreet and on January 5th, thanking him for remembering him at Christmas and also reflecting on the happy days they had spent fishing together. Harry Truman wrote a letter on Christmas morning to Clark Clifford to wish him a Merry Christmas and a happy birthday. Ronald Reagan wrote a letter in the fall of 1980 on stationery from the Holiday Inn in New Hampshire, where he was campaigning. And he had written it to Colonel Greene, and he indicated that they were in agreement on several things. He also indicated in his handwriting that he felt the nations needed a spiritual revival, and he signed it Ronald Reagan.
I personally liked the content of the DDay Prayer, and it was a gift print that was signed, of course, in June 6, 1944. It was given as a Christmas present, December of that year. And the fact that the president, this was read on the radio, and he was speaking not only as the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, but he was speaking about as a father. He had 4 sons in the war. And so it was very poignant, very personal to him. The content of that DDay Prayer is what is so important to me, whether it was the document that could be framed, which we have several of, or a book, that it was also printed in a book and given only about 100 copies given to their executive staff.
Well, when our collection was on display in Fresno, California, we shared the spotlight with Lennox exhibit of White House china. And one of my favorite pieces of the White House china is a James Madison plate that was used in the White House. It's been reported that the White House curator and the curator at Mount Pelier have confirmed that there are 29 known pieces of the Madison china to be in existence today. Other specimens of this china are in the collection at the Smithsonian, the White House, and the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Now, Clinton's White House china was unique in that its border, each piece was patterned after a motif of the crown molding in the staterooms of the White House. We have also acquired a 215 place setting of Lenox crystal. It was an ambassador's private collection from the U.S. Embassy in Switzerland. It includes cups, saucers, plates, goblets, bowls, glasses of every variety, and so forth. A very unusual collection of crystal.
I think the value of a Christmas artifact depends upon the collector. I know we had the opportunity to purchase 2 of the signed Christmas cards that John and Jackie Kennedy signed before they went to Dallas. We were told that there's only about 30 of them signed. Mrs. Kennedy in light blue ink and the president after her in a darker black ink. And they thought, well, we'll finish the rest of them when we get back from Dallas, which never happened. So there was only about 30 of them. We had the opportunity to buy 2 of them, but one individual paid about $40,000 for one of those signed cards since they were so rare. There was only about 30. And so it depends upon, what the object of your passion is, whether it be a Kennedy collector or a Christmas collector. It could be different. So that value, it differs in what you're looking for. There is a quote by Arthur Schlesinger, which I think describes collectors very well. It says that historians owe so much to collectors, more than they ever realize, because collectors are men and women of purpose and passion, and they accumulate books and papers, Christmas cards, and artifacts that enlighten the object of their passion. And in doing so, they enrich the historical record, and they rescue things that otherwise might have been lost down the memory hole. And that really describes Ron to a T, because he's been an inveterate collector as a young boy who collected baseball cards and marbles and things such as that. And he, in the last 35, 40 years, has added Christmas to that collection.